All right, Mark Immelman, Kyle Porter jumping aboard here. It was a pretty wild day. I'm going to start with the kid who told me that Justin Thomas was going to shoot a 65 today and win, and Justin Thomas just shot a 65 and won. Kyle Porter, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, you get lucky every once in a while. Look, the first 3 days, Justin Thomas was unbelievable from tee to green. He just didn't make any putts. He started putting a little bit on the back nine on Saturday. We saw 31 out of him on that back nine, and then he takes it into Sunday. This is somebody who understands the rhythm of a 72-hole tournament. He knows when he has to peak at the very end of the event. I thought the way that he played 15 and 16. Look, you're not going to hit every fairway, but how you get out of trouble when you're, hitting it way right on 16, recovering. That wedge he hit into 16 was unbelievable. I know it's just 100 yards. It's not that difficult of a shot, but to get it to check up there, stop, have a 2.5-footer to basically win the tournament, incredibly impressive. JT, I just thought his trajectory all week was that he was going to make a run on the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday. He goes 66, 65, 13th win of his career. You see the graphic there. His career trajectory, not just this tournament, but his career trajectory is kind of all-time good right now. It, might not necessarily go that way, but that's where we're headed with Justin Thomas. Be very aware of him next week at the PGA Championship at Harding Park.
Bravo, Kyle, bravo. I'm glad you got the career trajectory comparison in there, because he did put on a complete performance today. And the thing that jumped out to me as we watched him come down the stretch was not just the ball striking, because he's known for that. He's prolific. The golf swing timing is gorgeous. He's got the two-directional shot, which he needs under pressure. But when he was in trouble, he played to the safe side of the flag. He made veteran decisions. He hit some incredible short game shots, and statistically, the putting won't bear this out. But some of the wedges he hit under pressure there, coming down the stretch on a demanding golf course, spoke to a guy to me that had more control mentally and emotionally than anyone else coming down the stretch there, because this course in TPC Southwind, it's dangerous. Peril waits around every turn. And if you get on the wrong side of the bowl, you are in trouble around there. And it was a very clinical performance. Granted, the golf swing was under full command, so he was able to put the ball where he wanted at most cases. But under pressure, he came through with the shots that meant something when the chips were down. So kudos to Justin Thomas. It was a complete performance. And as far as I'm concerned, he's suddenly now become the favorite next week.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second, but I'm glad that we mentioned and talked about that trajectory. Third youngest ever to 13 career PGA Tour wins. Only Tiger and Jack have been this accomplished in terms of 13 wins on tour at a younger age. Meanwhile, Brooks Koepka is pretty accomplished in his own right. How should he feel right now? He had some great shots, and then he splashes it on 18. Meanwhile, on 17, as you mentioned, he's rolling in 40-footers. You're Brooks Koepka. Do you think this is a missed opportunity, or do you feel like, hey, I got what I wanted out of this, now let's get to the major? Kyle.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think he did get what he wanted. Each of his PGA Championship wins over the last couple of years have come in a week after he finished in the top 5 in an event. What did he do this week? He finished top 5 in an event. And it's not just this week, EK. It's going back to the 3M Open, and I get it. He missed the cut. He didn't play very well, but it was all the short game. He didn't putt it. He didn't chip it. From tee to green, he was really good. He's been really good off the tee and with his iron play for 2 straight events. I think he actually finished #1 in this event at TPC Southwind in strokes gained on approach shots. That means he's somebody who has a ton of control over his irons right now, and he's going to need that at TPC Harding Park. I actually think even though JT won, even though Jon Rahm won the Memorial a couple weeks ago, was #1 in the world, I actually think Koepka maybe should be the favorite based on the way he's hitting it right now. I know that he didn't win this week. I know he kind of melted down there on the 18th hole, but we've seen this movie before, haven't we? Brooks doesn't care. All of a sudden he pops up, starts playing well, then he goes on to win a major championship. If I'm Brooks Koepka, I'm walking out of Memphis and saying, hey, everything's right where I want it to be. I'm going to go win major championship #5 of my career.
I agree with you, Kyle, but knowing Brooks as I know him, he prides himself on being a closer, and he prides himself on being the big game operator. And coming down the stretch today, that incredible ball striking you referenced was kind of revealed a little bit, or it was exposed, should I say. There was a wide right off 16, there was and then another wide right off 17, then on 18 all of a sudden you've seen right, all of a sudden he misses left when you can't afford to. Now that to me is the golf instructor says, okay, things are going in the right direction, but I would just pump the brakes just a little bit. What I leave Memphis saying to Brooks, if I was on the crew, I would say, hey, this is a lot to build on. You have now seen where you are under pressure, because the pressure being in contention is infinitely different to pressure anywhere else. It's obviously very different to just practice. So he's got a bead now on where the game is, what his body feels like under pressure, and what starts to happen when it really gets ratcheted up. Now, look, this week was a big deal. Next week is an entirely bigger deal. So at least he knows now, okay, what do we need to address? When I start feeling a bit antsy, what can I expect? And information for these guys is power. So at least he has that now. So I would say Team Koepka, even though they came up short, should be in a really good way as they lead into next week.
All right, well, let's spin it forward to next week. Last 3 PGAs. Well, Koepka's won the last 2, and the one before that was Justin Thomas. So the last 3 times we've gone to this major, it's been either JT or it's been Koepka. So here's the question. I'll give you those 2 guys and a third choice, or everybody else. Who are you taking and who would be your third choice? Mark, you're up first.
That's a really good question. You know, I always tend to want to go with the field. And the one thing about Harding Park is that there's a lot of unknowns right now. It's kind of like this COVID-19 thing. Players know the course. The guys who played the match play a few years ago are familiar with it. But no one has seen this place in the last few years. They're going to get a stern examination when they arrive there Monday evening, Tuesday, whenever they get into town. So from what I've seen earlier this year, this golf course is going to ask you to drive the golf ball well. So the field is enterprising to me because the way some of the guys drive it. But Justin Thomas, the way he swung the driver and how he parlayed that fairway finder of his, he teased the ball down, gets this low sliding cut into play. That makes him, in my opinion, a really tough proposition around there. So the field's always strong, but JT looks good to me right now.
I'll take the trio, and you can add Bryson to it. And I think here's what's going to happen, EK. I think this is an event that kind of like Bethpage last year just turns into like only 8 guys can win it, right? Like just the longest guys in the field. And the reason I say that is because the rough is up, and it's going to be lush, it's going to be juicy. And if you are finding the rough, which everybody's going to do, it is so advantageous to be so much farther down in the rough to where you're hitting wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron in, instead of trying to get a 4-iron through that thick rough at Harding Park. I just think it sort of narrows the field down to only 8, 9, 10 guys that can possibly win that. And so I look at that group, I look at how well JT's playing, I look at how well Koepka's striking the ball, and I look at how long Bryson has been since this return to golf. And I really like those 3 at a place like this with the rough way up like it's going to be.
Well done, gentlemen. It was a lot of fun in Memphis, and we know Harding Park's going to be terrific in San Francisco. Appreciate the time.